Anthony's parents, Francis and Biagio Girardi, gave birth to Anthony on September 28, 1933, in the Bronx, New York. Carol Ann's parents, Anne and George Rondinelli, gave birth to Carol Ann on May 7, 1936, in Corona, New York. Despite having been born at the tail end of the Great Depression and growing up during the ravages of World War II, they each lived a happy childhood. It was fate that their paths should cross, for these Italian-American New Yorkers ironically met while on vacation in Miami Beach at the Casablanca Hotel. They were married on September 17, 1960, and settled in New York City, right near Roosevelt Hospital. They currently live happily together, having raised their 5 children: sisters Diane, Linda, and Cynthia, and the twins, Michael and Melissa. Today, now grandparents of 11 grandchildren, they love spending time and holidays with family. Their primary residence is in a golfing community in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, and they maintain a second home in Dobbs Ferry, New York. Both very active with their respective endeavors, their top priority was always raising their family. In their downtime, they enjoy staying active, first tennis, then golf. And taking a big trip, at least once a year, overseas. Today, we share and celebrate their legacy, their life, and their love, both for each other and for their family.
With Alfred Bistocchi, they were, that was my mother's sister's son, first cousin, and there were 4 brothers. He was my age, so we related to each other. The next oldest was another one who was an engineer who was I was very close with also. In fact, he was my best man at the wedding. With my cousin, we were like brothers together, which we lived within a few blocks of each other. And we were always together. We went to high school together, to college together, and we still see each other. But there was an incident that there was a bully in the neighborhood. We were playing ball. And for whatever reason, the bully was angry at this cousin. He hauls back and gives him a shot. His nose started bleeding. And with that, I saw red. I jumped on this guy, even though he was bigger than me, he was a bully of the neighborhood, and I put him down, and he no longer became bully. And that was a fond memory that I recall growing up. My mom was very strict, and I had to adhere to the rules. You've got to get in by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, whatever. And if you didn't, you got to let her know, where are you? Occasionally I would forget, I get involved, and I would be castigated. See, for that reason, you're not going to be able to, it's no longer taking iPads away. It was whatever the punishment was in those days. But it was mild. It was just the reminder that you've got to obey the rules. rules and regulations. I remember my mother's gourmet cooking. She made the best pizzas in the world. And during her holidays, she would bake all sorts of specialties that Italians eat during Christmas or Easter. And she was loving, but very strict. My mother was the best cook I've ever had a chance to eat. My mother's cuisine. In fact, my wife Carol, many of her recipes are straight from my mother. Even though the recipes are very vague, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And to this day, I remember some of the dishes that nobody else could make. Yeah, unfortunately, my father wasn't into sports. I was very athletic, very sports-minded. And I would go to my kids' events, sporting events. He would never do that. He was very, more scholarly. And he would, I went to NYU. I don't know if you know anything about NYU, but in the back of the library at NYU, there was a so-called Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame was busts of very famous people, Jefferson, Washington, etc., with little excerpts of what they said. My father would spend an afternoon sometimes just observing and making notes as to what these famous people said. I remember that distinctly. He would love to go to the Hall of Fame, which was right nearby. We lived in the Bronx, the school was in the Bronx. I was forbidden to have a pet. But one day, my dad, I did something, and he said, "You're gonna be rewarded. I'm gonna buy you a dog." He bought the dog. We walked in, and my mother literally threw us out. No dogs in here at all. I don't know why, but we never lived in a large apartment. It was a small apartment, and there really wasn't enough room for a dog or pets. So that, but I always missed it. I always missed having it. And then I married a woman who was allergic to cats and dogs. And being an allergist, I knew the best thing was not to chance it. And so although I should say, the kids found a little kitten one day in the neighborhood and brought it back. And they said, "We'll keep it outside, Dad, don't worry." And they raised the little kitten to a cat. And then the cat eventually started coming in, scratching everything. And my wife Carol, of course, said, "It's got to get out. We don't want it in here." And she started feeling it, the itching, the sneezing, runny nose. So eventually I just got rid of it. They stressed in general getting a good education. You've got to go to college, graduate. And I was also exposed to this cousin of mine with his three other brothers. There were four brothers, and they were all educated. Two were dentists, one was an engineer, and one was a surgeon. So I was exposed to that element. And my parents all stressed, you've got to make something of yourself, and the only way to do it is through education. The fondest probably was the Lionel train set at Christmas. That was probably the most precious thing for a little boy in those days. Yeah, we would go to the local candy store. Mr. Levine owned the local candy store, and we would get egg creams. You know what an egg cream is? Egg creams and ice cream sodas. They were loving but strict. and emphasized education. Getting the only way you're going to make something of yourself is to graduate and do well in the profession that you selected. I didn't get that feeling of love, saying I love you. It was almost implicit. I would get embraces at night before I go to bed. Yeah. But the word love.
When you raised your kids, was it something that you wanted to change or something that you kept?
Yeah, I think I did. I wanted to express my feelings with saying I love you. That word would always come out with not only orally but physically, showing him the embrace and the kisses. My only sibling is my sister, Amalia. We call her Molly, and she was a year younger than me. Actually, almost 2 years younger than me. And growing up, we weren't that close. She had her circle of friends, and I had mine. And but we got along well. And you know, brother and sister sometimes would argue about little things, but we're still close. I see my sister. She lived not too far from me in New York, and we were close with her family, her children. But as the years went by, we drifted apart. We didn't see we speak to them now and then, but we don't see each other that much. I was a jock, and they were jocks. They were into football. And they called me Unc. Unc, dude, let's play basketball, let's play football. And I would join in with them. And especially early on, we had just the 3 daughters, no son yet. So we were fairly close in those days, but as the years went by, we drifted. One of them became a doctor, an orthopedic surgeon, ended up in Cincinnati. The oldest one, Gina, lived locally in the metropolitan area, ended up in New Jersey. She was a sweet niece. And Stephen, also Jersey. My sister had 5 children as well. So growing up we were close, but as I said, we started drifting as we got older. I don't know when they started calling me Tony. I think it might have been later because I prefer Anthony. As a matter of fact, my little grandson is Anthony. And I don't want to call him Tony. He's my little Anthony. Yeah. My perfect day was Little League Baseball. I would play a lot of baseball. In fact, in 1950, which was a Jubilee year in Italy, for some reason, my father went there to visit his mother and his siblings. And he asked me to join him. And stupidly, I said, no, I've got my games. My friends are relying on me to play with them. But to this day, I regret that. Yes, my father's father was Anthony. I had no idea. In fact, I tried to emulate the second youngest cousin who was an engineer. I said, I want to be like you. I want to be an engineer. I was always good in math. I was always a good student. And he said, you know what? Don't go into engineering. Be like my brother Joe, become a doctor. And he encouraged me to go into medicine. Both me and my cousin, that was the same age, but he didn't make medical school, ended up going to dental school. But I was one of the went to medical school. It was Phil Rizzuto, and Joe DiMaggio. Those are the two people I looked up to. They were both Italian Americans, very successful, did very well, well liked. At least Rizzuto was well liked. DiMaggio had a reputation of being a little distant and not that generous, as a matter of fact. You know, interestingly, growing up in my neighborhood, they were all New York Giant fans. And I slowly became interested in the Giants with Mel Ott and Johnny Mize and Waddy Lockhart. I don't know if you knew the Giants in those days. But so I became, although the Yankees were my team as well, but the New York Giants was the team. And then when they left for San Francisco, I became a New York Mets fan. More baseball, and now it's football. Baseball bores me to tears, but football, I love football. Yeah, my memories were growing up with my cousins playing, usually outdoors, with not only baseball but basketball, and going out to Levine's candy shop for ice cream and 8 creams. We would make money by shoveling snow as well. That was another thing we would do so we could afford going to the candy store for our goodies. I really feel like I had a wonderful childhood. You know, I think I was fairly popular. In fact, I don't know what grade it was. It might have been 4th, 5th grade, where they some of the girls in the class would have a vote. Who's the most attractive guy, who's the most attractive girl? And I was selected with another guy. We were tied as the most attractive guy. I didn't know I was considered attractive in those days. And so I was popular. And I found out later that I was brighter than I thought I was. This is the first year of high school, actually. When I went there was a math exam. Everybody at school had to take the exam. And I did fabulously well, top 8 or 9, I think. And so I said, gee, maybe I got something on the ball here. I didn't realize. And then subsequently, when I took my Regents exam in geometry, algebra, trigonometry, I got 98, 99, 100. And this is what I thought about going into engineering. I had an engineering mind. But I was dissuaded from doing that, as I described earlier. In gym, there would be a race. And I would, you would race, the winner would sit out, and then I ended up being first place. I was a fast runner. And he said, you could be a track star. If you continue this, you could be a track star. But as it went on, I found myself more academic, more inclined to my studies. If I ran track, I'd have to go like 3 or 4 days a week after school, and I think I could have done that, so I stopped doing the track. But I would continue playing basketball after school, baseball, that sort of thing. I would read a number of books, but I wasn't that much into reading books as much as how can I put it? Listening, I guess, rather than reading. We go to movies a lot. One of the best movies I ever saw was Gone with the Wind. I don't know what year that was, but I think it was late 30s, early 40s, something like that.
Your parents?
I think middle class, lower middle class, possibly. Although my father did well, but he never drove a car, never bought an automobile. We lived in a small apartment and near the other family, near my mother's sister. There was one incident that we lived in Brooklyn. My aunt and uncle, my mother's twin sister, ended up in Brooklyn, and they owned a grocery store there and lived in the back of the grocery store. We lived one floor above them. My mother was a twin, yes. In fact, I learned this, that it's the fraternal twins that are genetic. Identical twins are an accident of nature, but fraternal twins to be passed on, that tendency to be passed on. Oh yes, every summer we'd go to Rockaway Beach, spend a couple of weeks out there. We would go to, and one summer we would go to a place in Jersey called Bound Brook. It's a farming community where I first learned how to milk a cow. But basically it was going to the beach during the summer months. We could never afford going away during the winter months. I remember biology and dissecting a frog. That was the start of it.
Tell me what you remember about dissecting the frog.
Opening it up and identifying the different organs in the frog. The heart, the liver, the lungs. Yeah.
You were fascinated?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
Do you remember the smell?
Yeah, it was a pungent formaldehyde smell.
Or you moved?
Pretty much that one residency. Now, speaking of summers, also vacations, we would also, my mother's twin sister ended up going a place in Long Island called Island Park, which is near Long Beach. Long Beach is where the ocean is, and we would spend sometimes a week or two there with my cousins, and I would be there with my other cousin, my male cousin. My mother's twin sister had 3 daughters, so my sister would be joining us with the girls, and my cousin Alfred would join me, and we'd go to the beach and participate in races. I would usually come away with a medal racing on the beach. So that was part of the summers also. Yeah. I love my mother's lasagna. I wasn't crazy about food. I love my mother's cooking, and I look forward to her pizzas and the Christmas goodies, or the Easter goodies that she would make. The little strufel, they call it. Honey balls, stuck with honey. You could start eating those, you wouldn't end. You'd keep eating those. Distinctly remember the goodies during the holiday season. Baseball glove. Yeah, I would baby that glove, oil it, and make sure it fit just right. Absolutely, yeah.
Remember the sound of catching it?
Yeah.
And were you good hitting as well as catching?
I was a singles hitter, a line drive hitter. I wasn't a home run hitter, but I was fast. I could make a double into a single into a double. We would go to baseball games also, and not once did I ever catch a baseball at the stadiums. They would play brisk, they call it. All the older Italian people would get together, and they would play bocce. I don't know if you know bocce, the sport bocce. And to this day, I play bocce over here. There's a bocce court. And I would join, I would watch, observe them. And they'd drink wine as they played. And they'd let me play at the end after they're finished. Yeah, that was the one thing I remember about my father. I could partake in something of his. For me, high school was a learning experience as a stepping block to the next step, which was going to college and studying pre-med. I did very well in high school. In fact, there was a separate school they called the honor school for kids that were brighter than the others. And I was part of that. I had very good grades. And to this day, you know, I was bright growing up, but in grammar school, nobody encouraged me to try to get into Stuyvesant or the Bronx High School of Science. I was never exposed to that. And I meet people here from the Bronx who went to Stuyvesant and Science, and I say, you know, I was never exposed to that. No one ever suggested I take the exam for that. So I regretted that. But, and also in high school, I was on the smaller side. So I couldn't play football. And I didn't want to devote the time to track because I wanted to get my grades up and make sure I got into a good school, good college. But the colleges were, the only choices were Fordham or NYU. That was it. I wasn't going to go to Ivy League. I don't even apply. And I ended up at NYU because of, they had a medical school. Now, maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit. And so I did very well at NYU. I graduated Phi Beta Kappa. But I was rejected to their medical school. And I wasn't the only one. There were a bunch of us at NYU who weren't accepted. And the word was that was the year they decided to go Ivy League. They wanted more of the Ivy League students. So subsequently, whenever I get a call from an alumnus that you didn't donate money this year to NYU, my answer would be verbatim, would you donate money to a school where you graduated Phi Beta Kappa and they didn't think you were good enough to get into their medical school? And that would shut them up, and the calls ceased after that. I can't finger point exactly when, but I knew what I wanted, and the way to do it is to study, get good grades, and make sure you got accepted to a good school. I remember also at NYU, one of the professors would say, look to the left of you, look to the right of you. You're all pre-med students, but only one of you three will be accepted to medical school. So it was almost a very competitive atmosphere where you felt like this guy is my competition. I've got to make sure I do better than him. No, I would play baseball after school with the guys in the neighborhood rather than the baseball team. I don't think I was good enough to play on the varsity team. It was like junior varsity, I would.
Did you have a favorite position?
Shortstop. Just like Phil Rizzuto. Even though he was a Yankee and I became a Giant fan. What was it like growing up? What was it like making the Yankees? That must have been a phenomenal feat. What was it like meeting Joe DiMaggio and Yogi Berra? No, nobody knew. When we first sat down, nobody knew what the talents were of your opposition, so to speak, opposition. So, but I wasn't like that. I was cooperative. If a kid missed a class and asked for notes, I would give it him. There were other students that refused. No, you missed it? Tough luck. I was well liked. I was obedient, didn't upset the apple cart in any way. and I was a good student. Yeah, I did. I would go out of my way for people that were not as fortunate as I was. I wish I could have donated more money, but unfortunately money was not easy to come by in those days. Although, you know, my father was a custom tailor. He would make my suits. I didn't appreciate it in those days. He would make a custom suit for me, and what do I need a kid playing baseball? What does he need a suit for? But he did well. Had enough money to send us to private school. You know, when I mentioned the choices were Fordham, NYU, not City College. He wanted a private school. Interestingly, we would drive by NYU whenever we took the Major Deegan. And I said to my kids, this is where I went to school. One of these days I'm going to stop. But it was bought by Bronx Community College. So it was no longer NYU. And there was so much defacing, graffiti. The Hall of Fame was gated. It wasn't even open because of all the vandalism there. But that was my last visit. It was a beautiful school, beautiful campus, quad grass, overlooking the Hudson River. We would, in fact, eat lunch at the Hall of Fame. We had a beautiful view of the river, and we would talk, have fun, play a little ball while we were outside. Right, and then get accepted to medical school. In those days, it was very difficult to get accepted. It was very competitive. And just being accepted was a coup, and then I didn't know what I wanted. I thought maybe surgery, because my older cousin was a general surgeon. So I thought maybe this is where I would. And one of the reasons I didn't do it, didn't pursue surgery, was as a medical student, I scrubbed in on a procedure for pancreatic cancer. It was an 8-hour operation. Standing up for 8 hours was enough to dissuade me from going into surgery. So I decided medicine was where I wanted, internal medicine rather than surgery. I don't think getting into NYU was difficult in those days. I could have gone to either school, Fordham or NYU. I was accepted to both, but I elected to go to NYU for the reason I told you. They got their own medical school, and it would be easier to get into their medical school than from Fordham. So that wasn't a great success story, that, so to speak. My biggest success subsequently was getting into medical school. That was the thing you strive for. I knew I couldn't leave my parents' home. I couldn't afford to. I couldn't even afford to board at school. This is why the schools were local. I could go by subway, by bus, and we never even considered going out of town. That was out of the question. Yeah, I was looking forward to going on with my education, learning as much as I could, getting the best grades I could, and strive for the next step. No, I didn't feel like I was a man in high school. I dated a few women then, nothing serious. Even in college, saw a few women, nothing that rang a bell or.
Right. What about the military? What was going on
Interesting. With the military, I missed the Korean War, and the next was the Vietnam War. But I was in medical school, and then the option was to serve after you graduate medical school. So I went to Washington, D.C., see if I could get a good position, like Walter Reed or whatever. And they said, we can't guarantee anything. If you sign up, you may end up going to Korea. So we don't know where you're going to go. At that time, the Vietnam War wasn't that bad. I mean, they weren't drafting yet, my recollection. So I elected to go into practice. And after 5 years of practice, I was 34 years old. I received an induction notice from the Selective Service. I immediately panicked. 5 years of practice in this, and I've got to leave. What am I going to do? So I spoke to people, and they said, speak to your congressman, speak to the administrator, the hospital administrators. I was the only allergist in Yonkers. I was the chief of allergy at St. John's and Yonkers General. And they say, you're a necessary part of the community. We'll let you go. So then I was interviewed by Selective Service, and finally I was deferred. Fortunately, I was deferred.
Did you have any political views at that time?
I was, interestingly, in favor of the war. I went along with the line, so to speak. We've got to get these communists out. We've got to support our brethren, the South Koreans, South Vietnamese. But political views, I guess I've always been a Republican. As far back as I can remember voting.
So again, keep your mindset right around those years. Did any of your cousins or family members go off to war?
Yes.
Your
They
sister
were
specifically,
They were older. They served World War II. The three older brothers all served in World War II. Cousin and I were too young for World War II. I was born in '33, so I was 12 when the war ended. And the Korean War, I was in school, so I couldn't be drafted then. And so fortunately, I never had to serve. Fortunately, unfortunately, I've heard experiences, guys, that say, oh, how great it was serving 2 years. I don't know how great it really was, but...
Any of the cousins that you grew up with, sir?
Yes, they all were in World War II. The youngest of the three served at the end of the war. The other two are actually participants in the war. In fact, my oldest cousin, I'll never forget, he would say they'd be crossing a bridge and they saw enemy planes above. And we would just get down on the ground, and bombs would be falling, and just pray that it would miss us. But that was, they experienced that they were there. Christmas Eve always involved seafood. They say 7 fishes, we'd have, I don't know how many. But that was a big, big meal. I mean, and I, to this day, look forward to that. As the years went by, when it was more and more difficult to cook those meals, we would go out and buy, I don't know if you know Arthur Avenue in the Bronx. No. There's an Italian section in the Bronx where they would make to order any food you like. And we would bring it in. And we'd all be together. We'd all be together. It would be the 4 of us, my sister, my parents, and my cousins, my 4 cousins, mother and father. There'd be 6, there'll be 10 of us. We'd celebrate Christmas together. And sometimes it was with my other aunt, my mother's twin sister, Aunt Amelia. She'd be over with my Uncle Mike. And they would bring over, they lived near the beach, and they would bring over fresh clams. We'd make baked clams in addition to all the other seafood. But yeah, it was so seafood, Christmas Eve, and for Christmas Day it was leg of lamb or some meat dish. We would go to midnight mass often. Yeah, we'd say a quick blessings the Lord on these, I guess. But we would also, in those days, go to church every Sunday. In fact, my children growing up were indoctrinated that you've got to go to church. This is what we do. But as they got older, they started losing it. And then slowly but surely, we started drifting away from this weekly. We would go for Easter, Christmas, and Christmas midnight mass often would be, if we could stay up late enough. In recent years, we weren't able to do so. We would exchange gifts the next morning. That was no longer Santa Claus, but gifts were left under the tree, just as Santa might do. And we'd open the gifts and kiss each other and wish each other Merry Christmas. That was
Awesome.
part of growing up. I would like to stress the importance of a good education and also the importance of family. There's nothing like being protective of your family, your immediate family, and doing all you can do to help each other, and also for the less fortunate, help the less fortunate as well. Especially if you can afford to. Be charitable, be generous. This is what I'd like to stress to all future generations. As a physician, maybe working in a clinic, donating my time. That's another way of being charitable. Or doing whatever you could do. Thanksgiving, giving out Thanksgiving turkeys to people. The fact that I could afford to do so, the fact that I had the means to provide for other people. Yeah, we would donate money to the less fortunate. Whenever you'd read a story about someone down and out, I'd send a check or to organization. The difficulty with organizations, they wouldn't leave you alone. You send a check to them, and every few months you'd hear from them again. It's a shock, but being a physician, I knew that this is a very slow process. It's a slow-growing cancer, and it's treatable. Interestingly, reason I laugh, when I met my wife, I went to Florida with a good friend of mine graduating medical school with, and he became a hematologist that treated this. And when I was first diagnosed, he said, no matter what you do, you can't extend the life expectancy. We're limited what we can do for this. But subsequently, other drugs have been produced that do prolong life. And it's gone 13 years. I know people 20 years who've had this. But the little one has got it. But that was the aggressive leukemia. But fortunately, at that age group, it's curable. So besides sharing the name we share a diagnosis. Anthony, leukemia.
Take his arm.
Well, I believe in God. I believe in the soul that continues. I would like to make certain that my family is provided for when I do pass on. I think, in fact, we've done a lot in recent months, knowing that one of these days we will no longer be here. And we've done changed our will, provided for people, so that, yeah, I'm ready. So, but the important thing is I would like to leave the fact that you've got to be generous, charitable, giving, and making sure you get a good education no matter what. And those are the thoughts that I would like to leave. First, I was a good father. I was a good provider. I was a good doctor, dedicated to patients. And I was charitable. I think they all see me differently. Michael being a male, we've got a certain connection there. With sports, we like the same teams. We have a lot of likes together. Each of the kids, Diane is special. Making some water. She was the first one. She was the oldest and the first one. And she bore the brunt of, how can I put it, mistakes that we made in raising children. But she's been a success. She's a decorator and has done very well for herself. She's decorated this place, Michael's 2 homes in Greenwich and Telluride. Cynthia just moved to Florida. She's helped her there. So she sees me in one light. Linda sees me in another light. Linda's probably the happiest, always smiling, jovial, and had more friends from grammar school, high school, college. Cynthia was the only one that went into medicine. She followed me into medical school. Would ask me about medical school. How many years does it take? I said, well, you got to do 4 years of pre-med, 4 years. Oh, I could never do that. I said, well, then go somewhere else. But she proceeded and was successful, and is now a dermatologist. And then Melissa, the lawyer, who went to Michigan, Phi Beta Kappa at Michigan, Northwestern Law School, went to top law firms in the city, and was successful there. And Michael, being an investment banker, done very well as well. Went to Lehigh and then NYU Business School. And they all, as Michael would say, we didn't need money. Dad paid for it all. Which was also something that I'm proud of. I was able to educate them without any any need for them to have to work after school, so to speak, or to provide for themselves. I think they're all well provided for. Yep. Seen a miracle. I've read about miracles in medicine particularly, where someone has been diagnosed with cancer, they open them up, this cancer's all over the body, all over the abdomen, they close them up, and they go on and gain weight and do well, and they can't believe why. They go in and open them up again, it's all gone. That's a miracle. But do I believe in miracles? Yes, I do. There was maybe about 20 years ago, I lost my hearing in the right ear. All of a sudden deaf, the right ear. I went to doctors and treated with steroids. And there's sometimes these things, you never know why. It could be viral, could be this, could be that. But what I did is I went to church every Sunday, prayed that I would get it back. After a few weeks, came back. They said that these things happen, you could get it back. But what was it due to? I don't know about miracle, but a miraculous feeling. She was born, we lived right across the street from Roseville Hospital. And I would, for my lunch, I would take a quick break, go back, and see my little one sleeping. Why did I bring that up? And there was a funny incident also. When we brought her home, they give you formula to feed in case breastfeeding wasn't sufficient. And there was one night where she ran out of breast milk. Baby was crying, Diane was crying. And Carol said, get a bottle. I want to give the formula. We forgot to buy a bottle. So I said, don't worry. I went to Pediatrics across the street, got a bottle, and we were able to successfully feed her with formula. That's a funny incident. You know, you don't like to consider dying. You don't like to think about dying. But it's inevitable. And hopefully they'll all be there, all my friends, relatives, patients will help honor my passing. Well, regrets like the house we purchased should have been a different house, things like that. Nothing. But otherwise, any regrets, significant regrets, no, not really. I met a wonderful woman. We've been married for 59 years now. Next year will be 60 years. No regrets at all. Bucket list. I've always wanted to go to the Galapagos Islands, and Carol never wanted to go. That was on my bucket list. But other than that, no, I can't think of anything else. I think I've done a lot of the things that I've always wanted. We've traveled immensely. We've been all through Europe. We went to China, the Middle East. Story, maybe this can go in. Maybe 30 years ago, we were at a jeweler's, and we were going to reset her engagement ring. And there was a young couple in front of us getting an engagement ring at the jeweler. And there was a woman in the background. And when they finished, we were next in line for service. And a woman came up to me and said, I'm a reporter for the New York Times doing a story on Valentine's Day, which is next week. And this would make a nice story. You've been married for 25 years, whatever it is, and you're redoing your ring. This other couple just getting engaged. I said, what is the secret of your successful marriage? And I went on about being able to negotiate, compromise, being able to get along with each other and have feelings for your partner. And she wrote this, so it was written up. We still have the article. Well, the next weekend I went to the club we belonged to, Aussie Country Club. And I met the guys there. I said, what did you do? Our women, our wives all said why don't you be more like Tony Girardi and be more compromising? And that's a funny incident. I had to relate that story to you too.
One of my fondest memories is playing with my brother John as a child. He was my little puppy. And so we would use the cords on the blinds. And the story is repeated down to me as to how I treated him as my little puppy. But he was a wonderful brother, always. He was a year younger. I was the oldest, and I have two brothers, and the other was 4 years younger. But I was not as close to Robert as I was to John. And they were really great brothers. And I was confined for about a month in one room, and they had to talk to me through the glass. And when I finally recovered, I tried to walk. It was like walking on eggs. That's how weak I was. And I missed a month of school. That was terrible. But I was left with earaches, very bad earaches. But here I am. We used to go to Manhattan and shopping in, I think it was Klein's, and she'd always take me to Nedick's or Orbach's. I think there was a store called Orbach's. We would shop together for clothes. Clothes was important. And she was fun to be with. Taking me to the park on the swings, and he was very mellow, very easygoing man. And that's what I remember Mr. Brown's candy store, going there on my own with the money and buying whatever I wanted. We always headed for that store. I remember candies on a paper. They were stuck, and you'd have to peel them off. Well, I don't recall what they call them.
Buttons, they were little.
Oh, buttons, yeah, that's right. That was one of my favorites. And so we had dogs, and we had a dog, and the dog gave birth to puppies, and we gave one to my cousin. And I named it, and it was, my mother loved animals. And then I developed, but then I went for allergy injections to be able to cope with it, because I had asthma. That was not a good idea. And she also smoked, which I never smoked. The doctors told me, if you have asthma, do not smoke. I never did. So it was irritating, the dog and the smoke.
What was the dog's name? Do you remember?
Tippy.
Did you
Tippy and Roscoe. Yeah, I named it, and Roscoe she named. I always play in the house with the dog.
Right.
Yeah. No, you never had to finish your food. Food was never an issue. She was not a great cook. My father couldn't have salt, and her taste buds were not so great. So food was not a big. Remember dinner at the table, not after church. It was discussions. It was They were very easygoing people. No pressure. Well, I do remember that I confided in my mother a great deal. I was not that happy at the Catholic school, which was around the corner. It always looked gray to me. Too many rules, too many restrictions. And she said, no way are you going to a Catholic high school. This is it. She went to talk to the priest. Everything was wrong. You know, that's how I see it. Not the other children, I saw it that way. Too many restrictions. And yet some of the priests, they were so kind, and the nuns. I had good memories of them as a whole, but not of all the restrictions of religion. And I remember the processions at church, and I would walk, all the little girls in white walking, and the Gregorian chants. I loved that music. I love music, and gifts, and under the tree. Wonderful. Good.
Did you have a hard time going to sleep the night before?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But we knew it was coming. Remember, I was in charge of the Christmas tree. I decorated that tree to the most perfect decorations. And it was fun, great fun. What I didn't like then was going to confession and for preparation for Christmas Day. The religion was a burden for me.
For you?
Well, my mother's sisters, they had businesses, so they had summer homes, and they were all very generous in sharing with us. We didn't have that. And so we went out to Shoreham. I don't know if you heard of Long Island, beautiful, right on the water. It was fun being with aunts, uncles, cousins. They were good people. Good exposure. Couple of favorites. I had an Aunt Annie in Brooklyn. She was my favorite. And then I had my Aunt Jo and my cousins. It was a lot of fun.
Why are you tearing up over fun memories?
Because they're gone. They're gone. Yeah. That's what I do. And the other aunt was wonderful to me too. It was in Bright Waters, and I used to watch all the yachts coming in. Just sit there. I mean, I grew up in Corona, New York, which was Catholic, Italian, lower middle class. But it was a happy home. I don't think my father was ever particularly proud of being Italian. But my husband's family was very proud of being Italian. So that I liked. So I got that feeling of not being so, you know. My father wanted good behavior. That was very important to him. Good behavior, control.
Did you hold your dad's hand when you went out in public?
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I don't remember. I was not as close to him as I was my mother. I was very close to my mother. But he was a very sweet man. Very easy, very sweet. Unfortunately, no. And my mother wanted to push me to be more like that, but I was a lady.
Jewelry, clothes.
That's
cooking.
right. You got it
How about
right.
dolls?
Golf, yes, I took up later
Dolls,
on.
Barbie dolls.
Oh yeah. I had another aunt that gave me a Sonia Henny doll. Did you ever hear of her? Yeah, she was an ice skater when I was growing up. So that was a magnificent gift to me. But it was a very feminine type of thing, not tomboyish at all. Envision myself being an ice skater and twirling around, yeah, which I never got that far. I was the oldest. I think that I was held in high esteem by My brothers, they were easy too, like my father. And I did what I could for aunts and uncles. I was like the goody two-shoes. That was me. But I got good feedback. Certainly they all did, the aunts and my mother. They were very creative. They would knit beautiful sweaters for me, and I would wear them to school, and the nuns would say, what beautiful things. So they were very creative. I love geography. I love about places, exotic places. I liked English. Not math. Not so good at math. Marie Presto, and I think her name was Barbara Bear, and they were just very nice girls, but I was always tall, and they were kind of short. That's what I'd like to put on little performances in the backyard, plays and things of that sort.
Costumes?
Maybe. I don't remember the
Props?
costume. In my imagination, that was all in the imagination. Yeah. But I didn't go through all that elaborate costumes.
So
and
what
things.
would be an example of a play? Wizard of Oz? Like what?
Not that I can't remember it, but I remember going up and down steps and acting and so on.
Family tree?
Yes, my grandmother was Caroline. So many of the girls were some derivative of Caroline. So I was called Carol Ann, but if I sign, it's Carolyn Ann. And had a cousin Carol. So that name is used.
Carolyn that you were named after, was she alive when did
No, my mother just, to differentiate, she put Carolyn.
Okay.
But then I was called Carol Ann. It's a bit confusing. I was like the boss. I was the boss of the boys. And I always told them to clean up and fix up. But nothing. They were always shooting and, like boys do, and noises like that. But, well, I had an Uncle John that has summer home out on the island, and he would pick me up sometimes and take me out to join his family. And they were near the ocean. They were near the bay or the beach, and he would take us out on a speedboat. Then I was a tomboy. That I loved. Yeah, go on the front of the boat while it's going fast. That was fun. We had fun with the relatives. A lot of fun. They had nice places. We were all about the same. I was probably lower middle, financially. But it was a community where everybody was about the same. I knew that we couldn't afford many things. I did know that. But everybody else was in the same situation that I was living with. And but then there were the movies on Saturday, and the movies took you someplace and gave you ideas. And then there was Manhattan that my parents took us to. And that was an eye-opener for me. And that's where I wanted to head, was Manhattan. My parents didn't stress it, but I wanted always to be a good student, and I was a good girl, but I didn't strive as hard as I should have. It wasn't instilled in me, and very slowly. One father gave, at that point, kind of an elaborate party for all of the students. And I had an aunt that was in fashion, and she gave me a dress, and my father didn't think it was appropriate. But my mother said yes, and I wore it, and I loved wearing it. And that was like the start of teen years and the fun, dressing up and boys and...
Do you remember what the dress looked like?
Yeah,
Tell us.
it was tulle on the bottom, and it was gold threads to the top. Yeah.
You remember looking at yourself in the mirror, putting it on, and
Oh, sure. Yeah, it was fun.
made you feel like
Took
$1 million bucks,
pictures.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, right. A fellow, I met him I knew him in the neighborhood, and he was on the train station, and asked me to go to an opera. But that might have been a little later
Yeah.
on. Yeah. So, no, I can't think of anything funny.
Is it-
Yeah. When it snowed, we went sleigh riding down the hill in the street. And my mother was so happy she saw me sleigh riding down the hill. Could do it again. I just didn't do those things. I was kind of quiet. And the neighborhood, I think there was a little blacksmith shop down the street. Could he have been making hooves for horses? I don't know. What do they do in a maybe.
They make the shoe.
That's right. I think that's what they did.
Right.
I loved Pompeii, the story about Pompeii, the burial of that city. Gone with the Wind. I loved Angela's Ashes. I thought that was a fantastic book. Well behaved. Good student. Not great, good. Yeah, nice girl. Well, I always lived with my parents until I got married. And when I was young, we lived with my grandmother and my aunt. We all lived in the same house, in different sections of the house. And then when I got older, I didn't like it. And I said, we really should leave here. And we did, my parents did buy a house in a little better section of the neighborhood. I was really embarrassed by the house. I was embarrassed. So, and then I was dating. So they did buy something, and that's where, it was better. It was better, and we had our own home. I knew they loved me. That was without a doubt, and admired me. But I don't think there was so much love you like we do today with our children. I don't think it was said. I don't know, but I don't remember it being said. You just knew it, you felt it with things they did. Movies. Go to movies with my brothers. Movies were a big thing. And what else?
Specific
Oh yeah.
Parents would drop you off, and
Yeah.
and
They would drop us off
Right.
at the movies, and you go see the movie, and I don't remember what happened afterwards. High school to me was about getting older and forging ahead on some path, and my path was a commercial course is what I took in high school. So I was geared to become a secretary. And one uncle tried to dissuade me, but there was no dissuading me. And that's what I did.
what made you pick that?
I could envision myself doing that. Working in New York for an executive, and I didn't want nursing, I didn't like that. And oh yes, yeah, that was nice. Clothes were neat, everything was neat and tidy. Yeah.
How about your fashion sense at high school?
Good. Yeah. My father admired people who were professionals, but he never made us feel like we could achieve that. And I don't know why. And yet he was sweet and good and easy, but not forceful and anything. He was hypochondriacal, worried about himself and his health. So.
Were you aware of a health issue he had?
Yeah, my mother was very annoyed with that, babying himself and whatever. I think, wanted money, and I think the family could have used the money. And that's why I stayed on that path.
And
I did what was expected, I guess, of me. Not really. In elementary school, it was a Catholic school, and they didn't have any gym or anything like that. So I wasn't used to it. Maybe it was my personality. I didn't participate much in that, no. I did find a job with architects and engineers in Manhattan, and I worked for a Mr. Nierimer, who was a very nice man, and I did the secretarial work for him, private secretary. From there I went to an advertising agency, and again, worked for one man in the advertising agency. And then I met my husband. All right, I'm going with 2 girls and my friends of mine. And my boss said, well, don't go in May. You won't meet any eligible men. I said, I'm not looking. I just want to go away on vacation. And then I met my husband there. And he was at the Casablanca, the hotel. And I was there, and he was a good-looking guy, and he was with a group, and I was with some people, and then I went into the pool, and he came in afterwards and introduced himself to me, and that's how we met. What happens? The body ceases, and hopefully there is the soul joins God in heaven, but I don't know if that's all true. I'm not sure.
okay.
That's my feeling. I mean, I wish that we would all meet together in that heavenly place, but is it true? I don't know. But I'm okay with that, not knowing. I know
Do you ever not pray to God, but do you ever catch yourself talking to God or thinking of God?
Yes, that I do. Talk to him or think about him, pray to him. That wasn't as devastating as the little one, Anthony. Because he assured me that of all the leukemias, that is the slowest, that is the best one to get. And we really had a good life, full life, interesting life. So we're hopeful. There's another drug that's coming out, and we're hopeful. It's not easy because he was a very enthusiastic, extremely active man, and it just slows down. But I've slowed down too. I used to be very, very active, doing and with 5 children and all, and everything slows down. But you go with it, and that's my feeling. I don't feel like being buried in the ground. So somebody says to you, would you rather be burned? Neither one is pleasant, but I don't like buried. I don't like it. Whatever.
So there was a day that you both worked on the will for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a sad day? Was it?
No. It has to be done. And we both want it done. And as clear as possible. And Melissa is in charge, and she's very capable, and she's honest, and it's in good hands. Nothing's perfect. It wasn't perfect, but I did the best I could. It is teary. And it was not easy with 5 children, but I loved them deeply, still always will and always did. And you wish the best for them. Love. Honesty. Truthfulness. I want them to be successful, which they are. And good people.
What do you think made you the person you are?
My parents. And their families. They were all good. They were all good people and generous and sharing. And they instilled good values. I love them. That would be it. No, with all the ups and downs that life brings, you know, but it's been a good journey together. I think I'm stronger than I thought I was. And he's not as strong as he thought he was. So, yeah, I would change some things. But overall, you know, he was a very good person, successful man. And it was a good life. We did a lot. I can't tell you how energetic he is.
Right.
Yeah, was. No, I think they will know that I love them immensely and proud of them. I think that's it. And I tried to set a good example always. I was a good wife, a good mother, a good person, and kind. Somebody once said at a funeral that a reputation follows you. Never forget that. And it's so true. And I hope my reputation is good.
It was the year 1958, the year that we graduated medical school. And a good friend of mine said, why don't we go to Florida? I said, great idea, why don't we drive down? He had this old Studebaker. And we drove down. I think we did it straight down without stopping. And we get there, we register at for whatever reason, the Casablanca is called. So we registered there, and a day or two goes by. We met some other women there, and I noticed that this beautiful girl opposite me with 2 guys. I said, 2 guys, maybe one is a husband. And I looked, I didn't see a wedding band. So I said, well, maybe she's available. She goes into the swimming pool, and I quickly jump into the swimming pool. And I did this saying, how am I going to meet her now? So there was a little kid in the pool, and I kept playing with him and nudging him over toward her. We finally bumped into her, and oh, excuse me. And then we started a conversation. My name is such and such, where are you from? And I said, I see you with 2 other guys. Yeah, that guys that I just met. And you want to explain what went on with you?
Well, I met these 2 men, and they were very nice, and I wasn't interested in either one of them in particular. So I said 2 is easier to go out with than 1, so they both took me out, and they were very nice.
So I said, why don't we go out tonight to wherever? Oh, I'm booked up tonight. I couldn't possibly go out tonight. I said, really? So finally I said, okay, what about Saturday night or whatever night? And she said, yeah, I think that's good. So the first date was the Boom Boom Room at the Fountain. And we went there for dinner, dancing.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful, beautiful evening. Let's see, what else was there? So we did that. And then I found out that she lived in the New York area, as did I. And I said, you know, we're driving back. Would you like to join us, drive back? No, I'm flying back. I can't, just met you, you know, which is the proper response, and I respected that. And then the rest is history. We dated for about a year or so, and so we set up a date where she's going to come over and meet my parents, and it was all set up. But before that, a week before that, there was a blind date. She wanted me to go out with her girlfriend and a friend of mine. There was a foursome, so we go out. And it was dancing, I guess it was. And the girlfriend was really ignoring my friend, and most of her attention was toward me.
She was flirting with him.
I'm telling the story.
Can I interject a little bit?
What was I to do? She's talking to me. I'm not going to say, don't bother me, please. Speak to the other guy. So I didn't. I was just real
God
gentleman.
forbid.
I was a real gentleman.
Oh, yeah.
But at the end of the evening, she said, I'm not going next weekend to meet your parents. I said, what? What a way to start a relationship. You're not going to meet my parents. I decided because of the way you acted. I said, well, that was a long story, and we went back and forth. I did nothing wrong. Yes, you did. Back and forth. But she refused to meet. And I said, that's the end. Goodbye. During World War II, a lot of people had these victory gardens, which meant that they planted tomatoes and used broomsticks to support the tomatoes. And we would play stickball, and we would need broomsticks to hit the ball. So invariably, you'd lose a broomstick would break, and you'd have to replace it. They're very difficult to get. But one of the guys had a great idea. Look at all these broomsticks in these gardens. So we said, let's wait till dark and we can get it. So we go after dark and take the broomstick. Now, either the police were passing by or somebody notified them, and one of the guys noticed and said, "Chicken the cops, let's get out of here." That's the old story of chicken the cops.
Okay. Went to visit my cousin Patsy at my Aunt Jo's home, and I used to sleep over. And my cousin Patsy wasn't the sweetest girl that you'd want to meet. A little calculating, so my aunt would say, "Oh, I want you to choose whatever dress you want at Patsy's." So I would choose the one that I didn't want. And am I saying it correctly?
Yeah.
I don't know, yeah. And because I knew her, she would always take what I wanted. So that was that story. My daughters loved that story because I won out in the end and she didn't. Right?
Right.
Say the
Okay.
word reverse psychology.
A reverse psychology, that's what I used.
Several weeks go by, and I was sick.
About why? Why are you sick?
Because we didn't see each other
Oh, okay.
for some reason. But anyway, so no, then I got a card in the mail.
It was your birthday.
It was my birthday with a phone on the birthday card. So I said, "Oh, I think she wants me to call her." I subsequently asked, "Why didn't you call me?" It wasn't done in those days.
That's true.
Women do not
At
call
least the women I knew, they did.
men.
There were rules. Yeah.
So I called her up. That was it. Right?
But we never.
Got back together,
I know. Okay.
and
We never straightened that one out, did we? Many times we were over for dinner.
yeah.
He was a big football fan, and at dinner time, he always had to have the TV on, and that was like a no-no in my
That
house.
was before DVRs. You know, you had to watch it live.
Oh my God, it used to bother them, and it bothered me, but they didn't make it obvious. But his football
But your
was
brothers
the
were
most
interested.
Not really. No, not like that. No, their dinner was their dinner. And you could do what you like afterwards, but he had to have his way.
I know I wanted to marry her early on, and but at the appropriate occasion was meeting her parents and asking her father, "I would like to marry your daughter," and he readily agreed. No problem. When and where? He was a comedian also, my father-in-law. He was funny.
Sweet guy, yeah.
And
Did you already tell your parents first before you asked her parents?
you know, I don't remember exactly the logistics. Well, they knew that I was very serious about her. Everybody knew. My cousin Anthony.
I know.
But,
We met everybody.
yeah.
It was a very.
Anthony was the one that said, "Call her up. Call her up." When we broke up initially with that incident, so I said, I'm sick over it, but I refused to bend. I mean, she didn't meet my parents. She was scheduled to meet. So he was the one that said, just forget about it and call her up.
He was right.
Yep.
What happened was, shall I interject? I had been engaged before, and I broke an engagement, and I was very cautious about the next step with somebody new. And when I saw that this flirtatious girlfriend of mine, I think he could have handled it better. He said, what was I supposed to do? I said, yes, just ignore her, or just change the subject, or pay attention to me. I didn't come out for you to be talking to her. And it's silly to look back on it, but it was very important then.
We met in 58. I guess I proposed in 59.
I think so.
Yeah, it was like halfway.
A year and a half, would you say? Yeah, about a year and a half.
Yeah. By the time you find a place and we got everything set up.
You lived together before you got married?
No, we didn't. In those days, you didn't do that.
You didn't do that.
How about?
I guess it was at least a year in advance.
Yeah, I could say so. Yeah.
About a year. Because you got, first of all, get a place for the wedding, make sure the church is available,
Yeah,
all the logistics of getting married.
We got married at the Hotel Commodore in the city.
The former monk was still up there.
Yeah, it's one of Trump's places, I
Yeah, I
think.
think
I'm not sure. But anyway, it was a nice reception. We had fun.
Tell me how many guests and
About 150.
The best man, I think, was Anthony, right?
Yeah.
Anthony was my best man.
Right.
Alfred was in the wedding party, too. I don't know why I selected Anthony rather than Alfred as my best man. To this day, I don't know. But Anthony was the older brother of Alfred,
who was like a brother to me. And he was my mentor, my advisor. And I selected him as my best man.
And my sister-in-law, Fran, was my maid of honor. And we are no longer speaking, it seems. Too bad. And then my friends were bridesmaids, but I don't keep in touch any longer.
I think your two brothers were also in the bridal party. weren't
My
they?
brothers were, yeah.
Yeah. The better I met her.
Oh. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to sleep with this guy the rest of my life. How wonderful. So it was
But
nice.
We were
It was
so
nice.
exhausted.
Yeah, I know.
We were, between the drinking and the eating.
Oh, it was fun. It was all fun. Oh yeah, we became engaged. We had-
Eventually.
Yeah.
But the day you asked her, will you be my wife, you didn't have the ring ready?
No, we looked for a ring together as a ring.
Yes, right. Everything together. I knew what I wanted. We know the jeweler. We did things together. Jewelry was bought together. Right?
Right.
And we continued that on. Yeah. My mother was a jewelry giver, and you were too. Yeah.
And I got to know diamonds, real diamonds, using that.
That we
Well, I
wanted
have one
children.
We didn't discuss numbers, or it was like a given. You get married and have children. That was what was,
Well, we wanted children.
Yeah.
I certainly wanted children. Yes, but the reason the family increased was that we had 3 girls, and he really wanted to try for a boy. I said, all right, we'll try one more time. And I had the twins, a boy and a girl. We were blessed with those too, very blessed.
interesting story. They were conceived in Italy, one of our trips to Italy. And one of my cousins in Italy that we met on one of our trips there told a story about the fact that the twins were conceived in Italy, and the fact that his wife couldn't bear children. And so the next step would be adopting, but they didn't believe in adopting. But he thought it would be appropriate that I give up one of the twins to him. You got 3 daughters, you don't need another daughter. And that was relayed to me by another cousin, and we laughed. we laughed about that with Melissa.
We'd have to give up Melissa.
Had a great
wouldn't be here right
proposition.
You're right, you wouldn't
Yeah.
be here without Melissa. Yeah. It was crazy story. It was just such an emotional day. Can't ever remember all the details, but it was a beautiful day and fun, and we were happy to be man and wife,
Right.
finally.
The first song we selected
Yeah.
was
Why do I love
you?
you? Why do I love you? Why do you love me?
Well, whenever they ask, what would you like us to play? Only once did a guy recognize that song. Why
Yeah.
do I love you?
It was part of a play, I think. It was
I
a
think it
beautiful
was.
song. Anyway, it was very romantic and beautiful. And we carried it on for many years. That was
Yeah.
always our favorite song. And then it faded away.
He went to the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, St.
That's
Thomas
right, yeah.
and Puerto Rico. Spent a week, 10 days, whatever there.
yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah, and got back, and I was a resident then. I didn't finish my residency in '62, and we moved into an apartment across the street from Roseville Hospital, which I alluded to earlier, and we spent the next 2 years there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then in '62, June of '62, completed my residency and went into practice.
In Yonkers.
Yeah, we didn't know where I was going to practice, but one of the distant cousins said that in Yonkers, where they lived, that there really is a need for an allergist. The only one doing allergy was a GP that took a 2-week course, and our doctors say that you would do very well here. There's an opening for you. And I went up, I interviewed some of the doctors there. They all welcomed me, and I opened up an office there.
Yeah, we're happy.
Earlier, she described it as miraculous. I wouldn't describe it as miraculous, but
Happy, exciting. Our own life, our own family. It's a wonderful feeling. And moving on to do what we want to do.
and here after that, Linda was born.
Yeah,
Following year.
that was a handful.
Linda was also born in the city, right?
Yes, and then we
Yeah.
left. We left immediately after she was born. Yeah.
Well, first of all, it sounds simple, but it wasn't. When I started out, obviously, you're not going to be making that much. So I would be working for another allergist in the city, in New York City. I would drive from Yonkers, I guess we lived in Yonkers then, into New York City to work several days a week. And I said, I could not do this the rest of my life, working in the city and driving back and forth. I wanted a local practice, which I ended up doing, just Yonkers. And after about 4 years, maybe 5 years, I was doing well enough where I didn't need to work for somebody else. But even as a medical student, no, as a resident, I would work in emergency rooms in Jersey to make a few extra bucks, working a shift, an 8-hour shift. Initially, money wasn't
It wasn't there.
easy to come by. So, but after 5 years, I would say, it started. And that's when we started being able to vacation.
And then 3 years later, after Linda, Cynthia was born, another girl. And but at home, I would take the calls for the patients and try to keep the kids quiet.
She was like a little mother to them. Well, the Cold War, the Berlin Wall, which was built in, I think it was from 70-something to 89, it was torn down. And the danger of Russian aggression, that was always in the back of our minds. In fact, I remember the children would be taught, if there is a bomb, you get under your desks. Get protection. Don't stay upright. But it wasn't something you thought about every day.
We were too busy,
Yeah,
weren't we?
life was busy.
And then social also. It was very
Yeah.
nicely social too. Good social life there.
Most of the trips were just the two of us.
Just one sec. It was skiing. He was in a solo practice, so he was afraid of getting hurt. And then what would happen to his
concerned
practice?
about-
So we eliminated skiing. But what else did we do? We did
What did we do?
vacations in the Caribbean.
Usually
we
spend a
took.
week in one of the islands
Yeah.
or going to Europe.
We always got away together. His mother was very good with taking care of the children. And my parents would help out when they could, because my mother worked.
I think the first trip to Italy was in 1970.
70 what? Can we remember all these things?
76.
Yeah.
Maybe a little earlier. But there was an international Congress of Allergy that we went to. with the organization, post-meeting trips to the south, to the north, whatever. And I remember we stayed at the Excelsior in Florence, which was the epitome hotel in Florence. And then as a doctor, we would wine and dine too. The pharmaceutical companies would do a lot of that.
And then, excuse me, the Uffizi, they opened up that museum for the doctors privately. Villas were open to us. I mean, it was really wined and dined, beautiful.
And then one day we were in the lobby, and I hear the name Professore Girardi. Professor, they call a doctor Professor. I get up, and there's a gentleman here waiting to see you. I'll make this long story short. My father was dead at that point. And my mother wrote to my father's family that I will be visiting Italy, first time. And so the entire family went to Rome to meet us. Didn't know
Assuming.
what flight. We flew into Florence directly where the meeting was. So they didn't see us. And so they sent a representative, they knew where we were staying, to Florence to meet us and to ask them if we could possibly go down to their little town in southern Italy. So I said, I'm with this group, it's gonna be tough. He said, well, you could, when you get to Naples, you could take the train, overnight train, you get down there. So I thought about it. I said, it's difficult to say no. But that was a special, special day.
Banners were out for us, but you
Welcome, Carolina Antonio.
It was amazing. The food was amazing. Their attitude was amazing. Yeah, like celebrities
whatever
coming
you-
from America. It was quite an experience.
Yeah. Whatever you liked, he would shoot birds and stuff them himself. This cousin. And you like it, you gotta take it back. I said, I can't take that back with me. What am I gonna? He made me bring it back, and I got through customs with it. With the wine that they
Cheeses,
make there, the
you know,
cheeses,
that you're not supposed to
the
bring.
pasta they made, handmade pasta.
They can't give you
It
enough.
was a great experience.
Yeah, it was.
And then a few years later, he visited us in the United States, same cousin. And the kids loved him. The
They
kids fell in
did.
love with him.
What a personality.
Antonio.
Yeah, that was very nice. But we lost contact with him. Yeah.
This is the one whose wife was barren. But he left the wife, went off with another woman. Yeah, when you do that, you're banished.
Yeah, and he had another life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
We didn't do anything consciously. We raised them the way we thought they should be, with lots of love, well provided for, and taking trips with them, going away with them too, as well. We took a number of trips. One of them was, we describe it as out west. We flew to Denver and then drove 3 weeks, 3,000 miles through Yellowstone, Tetons, Salt Lake City, Bryce, Zion, Las Vegas, the Grand Canyon, and back up to Colorado Springs and Denver, and flew back. That was a special one. The second special one was Italy. We took Brillo tours to Italy 3 years later, 1980. And we had some funny incidents there too in Italy.
The kids are with you at this trip?
Yes, all five.
it was a great
All
trip.
five on both trips.
The best. Yeah. I did want to just should I
Yeah.
interject? Yeah. I decided I was going to do things differently. They were not going to go to a Catholic school, so they went to public school, Scarsdale, very good education. And we stressed education to them. And what else did I decide? My mother used to have an expression on her face that if she didn't like something, she would have an angry face. I decided I would never have an angry-looking face. Just a little thing. That was, I just wanted to interject.
I know, I was able to afford to do that. There was no need for them to get jobs. Your job is to go to school, get a good education. The money aspect was all my responsibility. So that was arranged.
But they did have little side jobs in the summertime.
During the
A
summer,
little
when they were
waitressing
home.
or something. Oh,
I think so, especially Michael. Michael
yeah.
was very appreciative. You know, not only the 4 years, but Michael went to business school, which was expensive. Cynthia went to medical school. Melissa went to law school. So they all had postgraduate degrees as well. Not Linda or Diane.
and no, they didn't care to go on. But they were all appreciative. Very much so. And yeah, I think they would repeat that definitely for their kids. Because they have the means.
Yeah. Thank God they're all doing well.
Yeah.
And they married well.
I think they've fulfilled our dreams. What do you think?
Let's see. Well, certainly Michael and Melissa, both accomplished professionals. Cynthia is interesting. Cynthia just moved to Florida. She is a dermatologist that practiced up north, and they weren't pleased with the schools for the children there. So they would visit us regularly every year, and they looked into the private schools down here and liked what they saw, and decided, spur of the moment, this is what they were going to do. And my son-in-law is able to do this. He's
In finance.
and he could, as long as there's a computer,
He can work from home.
and so she got her license rather quickly, and
She'll be practicing
Yeah.
in Jupiter
come January 1st, she'll be.
and living nearby. It's fabulous, really. It's unbelievable. It's almost like a miracle to me that we have one so close. It's joy. Joy and a concern and worry. Yeah, both.
It's been, let me see, it's been 28 years since we've, with Stephen. Stephen was
That's right.
the first one.
We have 11, so the oldest is 28, and now we have little Anthony, 5. So Anthony is, of course, a concern, but we enjoy them, and they come and visit, and they stay with us, and so we love it. Yeah, we're reaping the rewards,
Yeah.
hopefully, right, hon? Yeah.
You said it. Just a brief, bless us, O Lord.
Well, perhaps if we're all together.
But it's rare that we're all together
yeah,
now.
it's rare.
The family is so large and
Yeah,
so spread out.
large. And I can't do what I used to do as far as preparing. So we go to the club. I wouldn't do it at the club, but I was happy.
It was sad also.
Really? Let
Yeah.
me just think. When was that? Let's see. Remind me.
That was, the last one was
Melissa.
Michael and Melissa.
It was a gradual thing.
It was gradual.
And they lived in Manhattan
What was sad was when they went off to school.
for a day.
No. For a day. I remember that being a little sad. Oh,
Yeah.
they're not going to be around much now.
No.
They're away at college.
Yeah, but they came home from
Yeah, I
college
know,
very
I know,
often. And we enjoyed them. And then they lived in Manhattan. And then we'd go to Manhattan and see them and take them
Yeah,
out for
fortunately-
dinner. Constantly with them.
Fortunately, they all lived nearby.
Yeah.
Until Melissa, about 5 or 6 years ago, moved to Los Angeles. Discuss the fact
that we're fortunate that the kids have grown up without being exposed to drugs and liquor and all those things.
Have we?
Just recently, we discussed that.
I think beyond what we expected. I mean, I didn't go that far ahead, but it's an unbelievable accomplishment. I don't know how it happened. That's what I keep saying. I don't know how it happened, because we were certainly not perfect. I don't know how it happened. Lucky.
But also, in addition, we speak to them regularly.
Yeah, all of them.
I think
They're very caring.
yeah. The one that's furthest away, Melissa, is the one we speak to more. It was 2003, 16 years ago. I retired. I wasn't ready, but one of the older, I shouldn't say older, he was younger than me, allergist that was buying up other allergist practices, wanted to build this network, made me an offer, and I said, you know, I'm not ready. Come back in a year, let me. And we did that, and then we negotiated for about a year, and I sold the practice, finally. And I wasn't unhappy in that medicine was no longer what it was when I first started. Reimbursements were lower, malpractice insurance goes up, all the expenses go up, but your reimbursement pretty much leveled out. So, and I was looking forward to retirement, and we decided to come to Florida, look around, and we looked in this area at a few developments, but we love this Ballard Isles area. And within 2 weeks, we took a 2-week vacation. Like 3 or 4 days before we could leave, we spotted this. It fitted all our needs, the extra bedroom, etc. And we negotiated a price and bought it.
Were you active in the golf and tennis at that point?
Oh yeah, doing both.
Yeah.
I played tennis up until a year ago. And then I couldn't run as much as I was able to before that. So
But the golf is wonderful. It really is. Socially, and just getting out there, and the birds and the flowers, and just swinging. It feels good.
the story that they wanted me to relate, I mentioned the fact that earlier that we lived in Brooklyn for a couple of years. We lived above my aunt and uncle's grocery store, the apartment above. And my mother would send me down with a pitcher and ask Aunt Amelia to give us cream, fill it up with cream. She filled it up with cream and walked it upstairs. I was drinking half of it. I brought it and she looked at it. And after a couple of times she said, "Why are you giving him only half a pitcher?" I filled it up. I don't know what he did with it.
The kids love that story.
Anthony Girardi, MD, PC, allergist and allergy and immunology. I was originally an internist. My first couple of years was in internal medicine. But this is an offshoot of internal medicine, as is oncology, rheumatology, chest disease, the infectious disease. These are all offshoots. And allergy is an offshoot of internal medicine. Initially, I started doing internal medicine, but I was advised not to continue doing that because otherwise the internists are not going to refer to you if you persist on doing general medicine. So I stuck it out and just did allergy. That was why I was working for another allergist. It's me initially.
Cool.
We've been pretty much all over Europe. The most recent was the Rhine River cruise through Germany. Did that. We did another cruise around the British Isles, including Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, England. That was a 2-week trip. And then the cruise in the Mediterranean, Barcelona, Rome, Florence.
The cruises were beautiful. What is our favorite trip? I would have to say Italy was our favorite place to go but Egypt was.
We've been there a number of times.
Egypt
Italy.
we went to, China we went to.
Jordan, Italy,
Oh, Jordan.
Israel,
Yeah.
France. Few trips to France.
But we don't travel anymore,
Spain.
and that's a loss. That's a loss, but we just can't. We just can't. It's too exhausting.
I was brought up speaking the dialect, Italian dialect, through my grandmother. And my mother and father said, this is America, you have to speak English, no Italian. When they didn't want us to understand, they would speak Italian between the two of them. So I knew Italian, I could understand it. And when we met the family in Italy, I was the only means of communication. And we were able to get by with that.
Can you still speak any of it today?
I limited.
You say I love
very
Carol
little.
in Italian?
How do you say?
Yeah.
Love. Amici's friend.
No, I can't say it.
Love. I forget what love is. But also I took French. I took 3 years of French. So going to France, I was able to, in fact, one of the women heard me speaking, thought I was French. And she said, could you read this with me? And Spanish, you know, they're all similar. Spanish, French, Italian. And being trained in New York, there were a lot of Spanish, Puerto Rican patients. So you needed to speak some Spanish.
I love music.
Talk radio. We watch, I like to watch the news. I like Brett Baer on Fox every night. I DVR it, in fact, if I'm not going to be here. I'll watch it later.
I love a good drama on Netflix,
We watch a lot of
Prime.
Amazon, Netflix.
Prime, Amazon. Yeah, something very good.
We used to go to movies, outside movies.
We loved movies,
You know, we used to,
but we don't anymore.
it's rare.
It's better to stay at home and watch something.
To a degree.
Mediocre, let's put it that way. It's just,
So it doesn't scare you?
no. We email constantly through the club, and what else? Email and text. I text the kids all the time.
And you're looking up.
Oh, I'm
Google.
always looking up my iPad. I have an iPad and my iPhone. So what would you call that?
Yeah, no, you're wired. That's great.
Oh,
The one thing we used to do a lot of is the theater, Broadway shows. Saw a lot of shows there.
yeah.
Does a favorite come to your mind?
There's a few.
Oh, most outstanding I loved was My Fair Lady. I thought
My
that
Fair
was
Lady,
fantastic. They were all so good. Oh, we saw, what was the latest one Missy took us to?
Oh yeah,
Hamilton. That was wonderful, wonderful.
Mainly boating with my children. Michael's got a boat. Diane and Martin have a boat. Linda's got a boat. So we do a lot of boating, and in fact, Michael rented a place on Shelter Island. I don't know if you knew anything about Shelter Island. It's where the North Fork and South Fork of Long Island split. There's an island there, and he rented it for a month. Did a lot of boating there as well. And we took a boat ride up the river, up the Hudson River. We live right off the Hudson River, up to West Point. A different view of West Point from the river. There was a patient of mine that was a major in the at West Point in the Army, and we used to go to the games, the football games, and we'd eat at the hotel up there.
New York, Manhattan was our focal point when we were up there, but not any longer. We love to walk. We walk the Hudson and read. And boating. That's about it. I don't.
Another outstanding boating was the 4th of July. Martin drove the boat down to the East River, and we were right by the fireworks.
That
experience.
was, Diane said, now or never. Do it now or never. And we did it.
I like fiction. Carol reads more.
I love biographies. Yeah. And a good novel, like Angela's Ashes. I mean, that was wonderful.
My favorite is Michael Connelly.
Yeah.
Bosch. I like his books as well.
World War
Well,
II.
I can remember Pearl Harbor, the Yaps, the Japs, any derogatory word you could use. In fact, many years later, we went to Hawaii and saw the Arizona sunken back there, and we were surrounded by Japanese people. I said, these are the people that did this to us. The sneaky Japs. But, you have to understand that was their forefathers. And this is a new generation. And I remember going to, it was called what was it called? Idlewild. It was called Idlewild, the airport.
LaGuardia was Idlewild?
No, Idlewild was JFK.
Okay. I
That was
remember
before.
going, I think, well, yeah, we went to,
Just observing them land.
yes, it was a big
Yeah.
to do. That's true. I thought it was LaGuardia. It's Idlewild. Maybe 12. Do you think so?
Maybe even younger.
Yeah. I did have an uncle that was in World War II, and I remember him leaving that morning and how the family was heartbroken. And he went to the Philippines, and he came back skin and bones. Very, very sad. Yeah. But World War II always fascinated us.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
wanted to go to Normandy, but we never got there.
And Nazi Germany is another. Ironically, my oldest daughter Diane is now engaged to a German, very nice guy, who was born after the war, of course.
Yeah, I would say my parents. Yeah.
And for me, with my cousin Anthony, older brother Joe was aloof. I respected him because he was a doctor, a surgeon, but wasn't that warm. But Anthony was a sweetheart. Unfortunately, he died rather young too. Described himself as an Italian American. A lot of people resented Italians because of the association with mafia. If anybody with an Italian name has done well, they'll say, well, they're probably connected somewhere along the line, and that's why they're doing so well. It's unfortunate, but it's fact. In fact, I didn't mention this earlier. When I went to NYU, there was a fraternity, an Italian-American fraternity, and they would recruit each year. They'd look at the list of new freshmen, and invariably, there would be 7 names. 7 names, never 8, never 6. So there was a certain
Quota?
bias and quota to it, similarly to Jewish people too. One of the guys was
Okay.
one of the guys was an Irish guy that we got along beautifully with, both of us. At the end of the summer, when we were going to leave, he said, "Are you really Italian?" I said, "I'm Italian American. I'm born here." And he said, "Because, my family said that Italians are all bad. They're all bad people." So I said, "You can see it's not true." That's how it worked out. Cynthia, my third daughter, married an Irish, thoroughly Irish. They're all Irish, right?
Irish, Italian,
100%.
German. No. not 100%.
Oh, Italian and Billy.
I didn't say Italian. I said German, and
Billy's family?
yeah. Mother is
Oh, I didn't
German,
know that.
father
They're both-
Irish.
I thought they were all Irish.
No, part German, part Irish. But anyway, he's wonderful.
Sweet, warm, loving. There's nobody I know that doesn't like her. Right?
Thank you.
Give her a kiss. You're up. How would you describe
And
him?
besides, she's a great cook, a gourmet cook. And she's got a reputation down here of being a gourmet cook.
I like good food. Okay, how would I describe him? Smart. Very smart. Good husband. Good father. And what else can I say about you? Let's see. And fun. I can't forget the fun part of it. Enthusiastic, fun-loving. Yeah. That's how I describe it.
Those were the days when we had more energy. Wouldn't stop at anything.
Nothing stopped him ever. Ever,
We were
ever.
supposed to go to Jones Beach. I don't know if you know Jones Beach. It's a beach in the Long Island area. And we would go meet often my sister and family. And we were going to go ourselves, I think. And it looked like it was going to rain. I said, let's go anyway. And then
In the rain.
been a bad day. It was a rotten day.
Yeah.
Rainy, but we went anyway. And made the best of it.
My father was never enthusiastic. It's like, not at all. But I married him and I just love that about him. Nothing stopped him. The energy level was unbelievable. I didn't experience that at home.
Stardust, Moonlight Serenade, anything Glenn Miller.
I love the Bee Gees. Who else do I love?
Were you guys dancers at any period?
Yeah, we were. We used to go to the Rainbow Room in Manhattan and dance,
Valley,
revolving
Valley.
to dance floor. We had lots of fun.
The Jersey
Yeah.
Boys.
Oh, I love the Jersey Boys. Yeah, Mamma Mia,
Yeah.
the Beatles, somewhat. Yeah, I love music. I just love music. And we used to go to the opera in Manhattan. We love that. And I love the ballet. But it all stopped. It didn't have to, but it just sort of does. Yeah.
It gets more and more difficult to get down here.
Thanks, sweetheart, for everything.
I think you have fulfilled all my dreams.
And yours, mine. I love you.